The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Beings from 1,000 different worlds sat in their assigned seats, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes under the artificial suns that lit the chamber. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others floated in bubbles filled with different gases they needed to breathe. A few looked almost like walking trees, while others seemed to be made of living metal. Ambassador Kethver stood at the center podium, his forearms spread wide as he tried to get the attention of the crowd. His blue-green skin shimmered with worry marks that his species showed when they were afraid. The tall, thin alien had served the council for over 200 years, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Kethver began, his voice carrying through the translation devices that let every species understand each other. I come before you with a warning that could save millions of lives. A low rumble of voices filled the air as thousands of aliens talked among themselves. The Zephyrian delegation, sitting in their golden seats near the front, looked bored. Their leader, General Thaxmer, was cleaning his claws with a small blade, not even bothering to look up. "Silence!" called out the council speaker, a massive creature that looked like a floating brain with eyes. The ambassador from the archive worlds has the floor. Kethver activated his holographic display. The air above him filled with images of old stone tablets, metal plates covered in strange writing, and crystal data storage devices that glowed with inner light. What you see here, Kethver said, are records from 12 different dead civilizations. Each one destroyed over the past 50,000 years. Each one left behind the same warning before they died. The chamber grew quieter, but many aliens still looked uninterested. Dead civilizations were nothing new. The galaxy was full of worlds where life had tried and failed to survive. These records all speak of the same thing, Kethver continued. A species from the outer rim of the galaxy. A species they called by many names, but the most common was human. He pointed to one of the holographic tablets. Strange marks covered its surface, but the translation appeared in the air next to it in glowing letters. From the Veltani Empire, destroyed 48,000 years ago. Beware the ones who call themselves human. They do not know how to surrender. They will turn your victories into your defeats. A few more aliens began to pay attention, but most still seemed bored. The Zephyrian general finally looked up from his claws. Kethver moved to another record. From the Korth Dominion, destroyed 31,000 years ago, the humans came from a world of death and violence. They learned to survive by becoming more dangerous than anything that hunted them. They make weapons from things that should not be weapons. Ancient stories, called out Senator Vexilon from the Hegemony delegation. Tales told by losers to explain their failures. Every dead civilization claims they were defeated by monsters. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Many aliens nodded their various heads or waved their tentacles in support, but Kethver was not finished. He activated another display, this one showing star charts and navigation records. These are not just stories, he said, his voice growing stronger. 3 months ago, our deep space scouts discovered something in the Sol system, near the edge of the galaxy. The same system mentioned in every one of these warnings. The star chart showed a small yellow star with several planets circling around it. The third planet from the star glowed blue and green. We found them, Kethver said simply. The humans still exist, and they are exactly where the dead civilizations said they would be. Now the chamber was completely quiet. Even General Thaxmer was paying attention. Our scouts observed them for weeks, Kethver continued. They are a primitive species by our standards. They still use chemical rockets to travel between their worlds. Their weapons are crude energy beams and explosive missiles. They have not even learned to bend space or control gravity. Then what are you worried about? Interrupted Commander Zelenoth from the Zephyrian Empire. A primitive species with simple weapons. They sound like easy prey. Kethver's worry marks glowed brighter on his skin. That is exactly what every dead civilization thought. Listen to this record from the Threnody Collective, destroyed 22,000 years ago. A new hologram appeared, showing writing that seemed to move and twist like living things. We thought the humans were weak because they had simple tools. We were wrong. They are weak in all the ways that do not matter, and strong in the only way that does. They refuse to die quietly. They refuse to accept defeat. They will burn their own worlds before they let you take them. Superstition, General Faxmer said, standing up. His reptilian features showed his annoyance. Fear stories told by weak species to explain their own failures. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 100 worlds. We know how to deal with primitives. Many aliens in the chamber made sounds of agreement. The Zephyrians were known as one of the strongest military powers in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and their weapons were powerful. Kethver tried one more time. He activated his final display, showing the most recent record they had found. This message is only 5,000 years old, he said. From the Eternal Directorate, the last known civilization to encounter the humans. The translation appeared in burning red letters that made many aliens step back in fear. We should have listened to the warnings. The humans do not fight to win, they fight to make sure you lose. Every ship you send against them becomes a lesson for them. Every weapon you use teaches them how to build better ones. Every world you take from them becomes a trap waiting to destroy you. They do not fear death because they have made death their ally. Do not fight the humans. Do not even let them know you exist. This is the last message of our civilization. Learn from our mistake. The chamber fell into complete silence. The red letters hung in the air like a curse, but the silence did not last long. General Faxmer began to laugh. His deep, rumbling laughter was joined by other Zephyrians, then by members of other delegations. Stories, the general called out. Ghost tales. The archive worlds are known for believing in old legends and dead gods. These humans, if they even exist, are just another primitive species waiting to be civilized. Senator Vexilon stood up as well. The hegemony agrees with our Zephyrian friends. These records prove nothing except that some ancient civilizations were defeated by unknown enemies. It happens all the time. The galaxy is full of dangers. But the consistency of the warnings, Kethver began. Means nothing, interrupted the senator. Fear spreads like disease. One civilization creates a scary story, others copy it. Soon everyone is afraid of the same imaginary monster. The council speaker's many eyes focused on Kethver. Do you have any proof beyond these ancient records? Any evidence that these humans are actually dangerous? Kethver's shoulders sagged. No direct proof, honored speaker. Only the warnings. Of 12 dead civilizations, and the fact that these humans still exist in exactly the place those civilizations said they would be found. Not enough, the speaker declared. The Galactic Council requires solid evidence before we can act on such extreme claims. General Faxmer smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Zephyrian Empire has already decided to investigate this soul system. If these humans exist, we will determine if they pose any threat to galactic peace. If they are primitive, we will offer them the chance to join the galactic community under our protection. Kethver knew what protection meant when the Zephyrians offered it. It meant slavery or death. I ask the council to vote, Kethver said, making one last attempt. Vote to declare the Sol system off limits until we can study these warnings. More carefully, the voting began immediately. Lights appeared above each delegation as they made their choice. Green lights meant yes, they agreed with the warning. Red lights meant no, they thought the Zephyrians should proceed. Kethver watched as red light after red light appeared in the chamber. Only a few of the older species voted green. The ethereal conclave who had existed since the galaxy was young. The Void Watchers who spent their lives studying dangerous things in deep space. The archive worlds themselves, but it was not enough. The final count was overwhelming. 847 votes to investigate, 73 votes to stay away. The motion fails, announced the council speaker. The Zephyrian Empire is authorized to make contact with the Sol system using standard first contact protocols. General Faxmer bowed mockingly to Kethver. Thank you for the warning, Ambassador. My fleet will be sure to be extra careful when we collect our new subjects. As the council session ended and beings began to file out of the Great Hall, Kethver remained at the podium. He stared at the holographic records still floating in the air above him. The warnings of 12 dead civilizations glowed softly in the artificial light. Elder Nixara of the ethereal conclave drifted over to him, her ancient form shimmering like smoke. "You did what you could," she said in her whisper-soft voice. "Sometimes the galaxy must learn its lessons the hard way." Kethver looked at her with his large, sad eyes. "How many will die because they would not listen?" The elder's form grew even dimmer. "Perhaps the better question is, how?" Admiral Velthorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the crimson dominance, watching the small yellow star grow larger on his main screen. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for what they all expected would be a simple mission. The Zephyrian war fleet consisted of 47 ships, each one capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast from their plasma cannons. The admiral was a tall, powerful Zephyrian with dark red scales and yellow eyes that missed nothing. He had conquered 18 worlds for the Empire in his long career. This mission to the Sol system was supposed to be easy. Just another primitive world to add to the Empire's collection. "Report," Velthorn commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been defeated. Commander Yextal, his second-in-command, checked the sensor readings. "We are approaching the outer planets of the system, Admiral. Our scanners show several small worlds made of rock and ice, nothing valuable so far. And the inhabited planet?" "The third world from the star, Admiral. Our long-range sensors confirm it is covered in water and land masses. We detect many cities and what appears to be industrial activity," Velthorn nodded. "Signs of space travel?" "Very primitive, Admiral. We have detected several crude vessels moving between their worlds. They appear to use chemical rockets for propulsion. Some kind of controlled explosion system." The bridge crew made sounds of amusement. Chemical rockets were ancient technology that most civilizations stopped using thousands of years ago. It was like finding someone who still used fire to cook their food. "Weapons?" the Admiral asked. "Basic energy beams and explosive projectiles, Admiral. Nothing that could penetrate even our oldest ship designs. Their most powerful weapons appear to be nuclear fusion devices." More sounds of amusement from the crew. Nuclear weapons were what young civilizations used before they learned to split atoms properly or bend energy to their will. "Perfect," Velthorn said with satisfaction. "Just as Command predicted. A primitive species with simple technology? We will offer them the standard choice. Join the Empire willingly, or be forced to join after we demonstrate our superior power." The fleet moved deeper into the system, passing the red planet that the humans called Mars, their sensors detected. Several small bases on its surface and a few mining operations on nearby asteroids. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we are receiving signals from the third planet. Many different languages and transmission types. Should we attempt translation?" "Not yet," Velthorn replied. "First we show them our power. Then we talk. It is the Empire way." The fleet arranged itself in attack formation around Earth. The huge Zephyrian ships blocked out the sun in many places as they took their positions. On the planet below, every human government and military force had gone to full alert. Air raid sirens wailed in cities across the globe. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky, knowing they had no chance against such massive ships, but launching anyway. Velthorn activated the communication system that would broadcast to every radio and television on the planet below. "People of the third planet," he began, his words being translated into every human language by the ship's computers. "I am Admiral Velthorn of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for inclusion in our galactic community. You have two choices." On Earth, billions of humans listened in fear and anger as the alien voice continued. "First choice, surrender immediately. Disarm your military forces, accept our governors and our laws. In return, you will be protected and allowed to live under our guidance. In military command centers around the world, Human generals and presidents watched their screens showing the massive alien fleet. The ships were each larger than their biggest cities. Second choice, the admiral continued, resist us. We will demonstrate why this is foolish, then you will surrender anyway. Many of your people will die unnecessarily. The choice is yours, you have one of your hours to decide. The transmission ended. Velthorn settled back in his command chair, confident that he would receive Earth's surrender within minutes. No primitive civilization had ever chosen to fight the Empire when faced with such overwhelming force. He was wrong. The first response came exactly 57 minutes later. It was not a surrender message. Admiral, the communications officer said, sounding confused. We are receiving a transmission from the planet. Their surrender? Velthorn asked. No, Admiral. It appears to be music? Music? The bridge speakers filled with sound. It was a human song, something called the Battle Hymn of the Republic, sung by a choir of thousands of voices. The words spoke of freedom and fighting against tyranny, even unto death. Before Velthorn could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. Admiral! Multiple contacts approaching from the asteroid belt. The main screen shifted to show space near Mars. Dozens of objects were accelerating toward the fleet at incredible speed. They were not warships. The sensors identified them as industrial vessels, asteroid mining ships, cargo haulers, and construction platforms. What are they doing? Velthorn demanded. His answer came when the first mining ship reached the outer edge of his fleet. Instead of slowing down or trying to communicate, it accelerated even faster and smashed directly into the side of a Zephyrian destroyer. The explosion was massive. The mining ship's fusion reactor detonated on impact, tearing a hole completely through the destroyer's hull. The warship broke in half and began spinning helplessly through space. Impossible, Velthorn whispered, but it was not over. More mining ships reached the fleet, each one aiming for a different Zephyrian vessel. The humans had filled their cargo holds with nuclear weapons and reactor fuel, turning every ship into a massive bomb. They flew their vessels directly into the alien fleet, making no attempt to escape or survive. They are using their own ships as weapons, Commander Yextel shouted over the sound of alarms. They are killing themselves to damage us. Another explosion rocked a Zephyrian cruiser. Then another. The humans were not trying to fight a space battle. They were turning themselves into guided missiles. All ships, evasive action, Velthorn commanded. Destroy those vessels before they reach us. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with their plasma cannons and particle beams. The mining ships were easy targets, slow and clumsy compared to real warships. But there were so many of them, and they kept coming from all directions. More explosions lit up the darkness of space. A human cargo ship filled with industrial explosives took out the engines of a Zephyrian battle cruiser. A construction platform loaded with nuclear waste crashed into the bridge of a destroyer, killing everyone in the command center. The most shocking moment came when a small human passenger ship, the kind used to carry people between Earth and Mars, flew directly at the Crimson Dominance. Velthorn could see it on his screen, growing larger as it approached. Destroy it, he ordered. The ship's weapons fired. The human vessel exploded in a ball of flame. But the explosion was much larger than it should have been. The humans had packed the passenger ship with every piece of nuclear material they could find. The blast wave hit the flagship, shaking the massive vessel and overloading several power systems. Emergency lights flashed throughout the bridge. Admiral, the damage control officer reported, we have lost main engines and 3 weapon systems. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Velthorn stared at the main screen in shock. In less than 20 minutes, these primitive humans had destroyed or crippled 15 of his ships. Not with superior technology or clever tactics, but by turning themselves into weapons. How many more are coming? He asked. The tactical officer checked his sensors. At least 30 more vessels approaching from different directions, Admiral. And we are detecting massive energy signatures from the planet itself. What kind of energy signatures? Nuclear weapons, Admiral. Hundreds of them, mounted on primitive rockets and aimed at our fleet. Velthorn felt something he had never experienced in all his years of conquest. Fear. These humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They were not trying to win. They were trying to hurt him as much as possible before they died. Another human ship reached the fleet. This one was a research vessel that had been studying Jupiter's moons. It crashed into a Zephyrian support ship, destroying both vessels in a nuclear fireball. "Admiral," Commander Yextel said, his voice shaking, "perhaps we should withdraw and call for reinforcements." "Withdraw?" Velthorn snarled. "From primitives with chemical rockets? Never." But even as he spoke, another mining ship slammed into one of his remaining cruisers. The explosion was so bright it temporarily blinded the sensors. On Earth, the governments had made their decision. Every nation had agreed to the same desperate plan. They could not defeat the alien fleet in a normal space battle, but they could make the aliens pay such a high price for victory that other alien civilizations might think twice before attacking humanity. Every nuclear submarine surfaced and fired their missiles at the alien ships. Every intercontinental ballistic missile in every silo was launched. Fighter jets loaded with nuclear weapons flew suicide missions against the lowest alien ships. The humans were using every weapon they had, even if it meant destroying themselves in the process. The news of Admiral Velthorn's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In cantinas and trading posts on 1,000 worlds, beings whispered about the impossible. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conquerors of 18 star systems, had been beaten back by a primitive species. Using chemical rockets, most refused to believe it at first. War Commander Grixath of the Korthik Syndicate laughed when he heard the reports. The Korthik were raiders and pirates, descendants of an ancient warrior. Culture that prided itself on being tougher than anyone else in the galaxy. They had been watching the Zephyrian advance toward the Sol system with interest, waiting to see if there was anything worth stealing from the aftermath. "Velthorn has grown soft," Grixath told his assembled captains aboard his flagship, the Bone Crusher. 20 years of easy victories against weaklings have made him forget how to fight real battles. "These humans cannot be as dangerous as he claims," his captains agreed with enthusiasm. The Korthik fleet was smaller than the Zephyrian force had been, but they were meaner and more experienced in real combat. They had spent centuries fighting wars against species that actually fought back. "Besides," added Captain Vashtar, a scarred veteran with metal implants covering half his face, "Velthorn tried to conquer them. We will simply destroy them. No need to keep them alive means no need to hold back." The Korthik fleet consisted of 37 warships, each one designed for maximum destruction. Unlike the Zephyrians, who preferred clean victories and intact planets to rule over, the Korthik believed in total war. They would burn entire worlds to ash if it meant winning. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Korthik fleet arrived in the Sol system. They found it much changed from what the Zephyrian scouts had reported. The space around Earth was filled with debris from destroyed ships and the wreckage of human vessels. Several asteroids had been moved from their original positions, forming what looked like defensive barriers. "Humans!" Grixath broadcast toward Earth, not bothering with diplomacy or surrender demands. "You embarrassed our Zephyrian rivals. For this you will die slowly. We will burn your cities and salt your fields. We will make your species extinct." The human response came within minutes. It was not words but weapons. Nuclear missiles launched from hidden bases on the dark side of Earth's moon, followed by more missiles from Mars and the asteroid belt. But these were not the crude rockets the Zephyrians had faced. In the 3 weeks since the first battle, humanity had been very busy. "Incoming weapons!" shouted the Korthik sensor operator. "Wait, these are different. The missiles are moving faster than they should be able to. And the energy readings ... The first missile reached the Korthik fleet and exploded with impossible force. Instead of a simple nuclear blast, it created a cascade reaction that tore a hole in space itself. The explosion swallowed a Korthik destroyer completely, leaving nothing behind but empty vacuum. "What was that?" Grixath demanded. His science officer checked the readings with trembling hands. War Commander, they appear to have weaponized zero-point energy. The humans have learned to create contained singularities. Impossible. That technology takes centuries to develop. Another missile hit, this one creating a field of twisted gravity that crushed a Korthic cruiser like paper. Then another, and another. The humans had not just repaired their defenses. They had improved them beyond anything that should have been possible on Earth. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the ruins of what had once been MIT. The university had been destroyed in the Zephyrian attack, but the surviving scientists had built new laboratories and underground bunkers. Around her, the greatest minds of humanity worked frantically on projects that would have been considered science fiction just a month ago. "Status report," Dr. Chun called out. "The quantum destabilizer is ready for deployment," replied Dr. Petrov from his workstation. "We have successfully converted the Zephyrian plasma cannon technology into a weapon that can destabilize matter at the subatomic level. The gravity well generators are online," added Dr. Kim. "We reverse engineered their engine technology. Turns out, if you run the process backward, you can create localized black holes." Dr. Chun nodded grimly. Humanity had learned something important from the first battle. Every alien weapon that hit them, every piece of alien technology they could salvage from the wreckage, became a lesson in how to build better weapons of their own, back in space. The Korthic fleet was discovering this the hard way. Their superior firepower meant nothing when the humans could turn their own weapons against them. War Commander Grixath watched in horror as another of his ships was destroyed by a device that should not exist. All ships retreat to long range and bombard the planet from a safe distance. Glass their entire world. The Korthic fleet pulled back and prepared for orbital bombardment. Their plasma cannons could burn entire continents from orbit. The humans would have no defense against such massive firepower. They were wrong, the moment the Korthic ships began charging their weapons. Every human colony in the solar system exploded. Not from alien attacks, but from within. The humans had rigged their own worlds with massive bombs, turning each planet and moon into a weapon. Mars erupted in a chain of nuclear explosions that cracked the planet's crust. The blast launched chunks of rock the size of mountains directly at the Korthic fleet. But these were not ordinary rocks. The humans had embedded them with alien technology scavenged from the first battle. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, detonated like a star-going nova. The explosion sent out a wave of radiation and debris that moved at nearly the speed of light. When it hit the Korthic fleet, it carried with it a cloud of nanoscale machines that immediately began eating through alien hull armor. They are destroying their own colonies to hurt us. Grixath screamed over the sound of alarms. His tactical officer could barely speak through his fear. "War Commander, they have turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every world, every moon, every asteroid has been rigged to explode." The worst was yet to come. As the Korthic fleet tried to escape the expanding field of destruction, Earth itself began to change. The planet's rotation slowed, then stopped, then reversed. The humans were using their own world's spin as a weapon, turning their planet into a massive gyroscope that warped space around it. The gravitational distortion caught 3 Korthic ships and pulled them into crushing spirals that compressed them into balls of metal and flesh. The remaining ships fled as fast as their engines could carry them, but the effects followed them across the solar system. Grixath's flagship was the last to escape, its hull scarred by radiation and its crew half dead from the gravitational stress. As they limped away from the Sol system, the War Commander received reports from his surviving captains. 18 ships lost, reported Captain Vashtar, his voice hollow with shock. "The humans destroyed their own worlds just to hurt us. They sacrificed billions of their own people to kill a few hundred of ours." "And they are still alive," Grixath whispered, staring at the tactical display showing Earth. The planet was now a burned, twisted wreck. But his sensors still detected millions of humans living in underground cities and orbital stations. Somewhere else in the galaxy, the Vrex Collective had been monitoring both battles with growing concern. The Vreks were traders and diplomats, a peaceful species that preferred negotiation to warfare. They had built their civilization on the principle that any conflict could be resolved through proper communication and mutual benefit. High Trader Lexuri called an emergency meeting of the collective's ruling council. "Honored colleagues," she began, her tentacles weaving nervous patterns in the air, "we have observed two military disasters in the Sol system. Both the Zephyrian Empire and the Korthic Syndicate have suffered devastating losses against this species called human. Perhaps we should attempt diplomatic contact," suggested Counselor Nexhai. "These humans have proven they can defend themselves." "Maybe they would be interested in trade agreements," the council agreed. The Vreks sent a small diplomatic mission to the Sol system, broadcasting messages of peace and offers of technological exchange. They approached carefully, making sure their intentions were clear. The human response was swift and terrifying. "We know why you are here," came the transmission from Earth's rebuilt communication centers. "You have seen what we did to the others. You want to see if we are reasonable, if we can be negotiated with?" High Trader Lexuri felt a chill run through her body. The human voice was calm, almost friendly, but there was something underneath it that made her want to flee. "The answer is yes," the human continued. "We can be very reasonable. Would you like to see what we built from the wreckage of your friends' fleets?" A new object appeared on the Vreks sensors. It was massive, larger than any ship they had ever seen. It looked like a combination of human engineering and alien technology, fused together in ways that should not have worked. "We call it the Ragnarok Protocol," the human said. "We built it from Zephyrian hull plating and Korthic weapon systems. It can destroy star systems." The Vreks sensors confirmed the impossible. The massive weapon was pointed directly at their homeworld, somehow able to target across interstellar distances. "Here is our negotiation," the human voice continued. "Leave our space." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 10,000-year history. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the Great Hall, but instead of the usual calm discussions, panic filled the air like smoke. Species that had not spoken to each other in centuries now huddled together, sharing their fear of the same enemy. Ambassador Kethver stood at the center podium once again, but this time no one was laughing at his warnings. The holographic displays around him showed the wreckage of 3 different fleets and the impossible weapons that the humans had somehow built in just 2 months. "Honored beings," Kethver began, his voice heavy with sadness, "we are here because we did not listen. The warnings I brought before were ignored. Now we face the consequences." Fleet Commander Tashvai of the Hegemony spoke first. Her usually perfect composure was cracked with worry lines. "Our deep space monitors have detected human activity in 47 different star systems. They are not just defending their home anymore, they are spreading." "How is this possible?" demanded Senator Vexilon, his voice shaking. 2 months ago they were using chemical rockets. Now they have technology that surpasses our own." The answer came from Dr. Zeftel, the galaxy's leading expert on technological development. His multiple brain segments glowed with different colors as he processed the data. "They learn," he said simply. "Every weapon we use against them becomes a lesson. Every ship we lose teaches them our weaknesses, but it is more than that. They improve everything they touch." He activated a holographic display showing human technology side by side with alien equivalents. "Look at this analysis. They took Zephyrian plasma cannon technology and made it 30% more efficient. They used Korthic shield generators and increased their power output by 50%. They are not just copying our technology. They are making it better." The hall fell into worried silence as the implications sank in. "There's something else," Dr. Zeftel continued. "Our intelligence networks have intercepted human communications. They are not just building weapons randomly. They are conducting organized research into every species in the galaxy. They are learning our biology, our psychology, our weaknesses." Princess Yathara of the Crystal Court stood up, her translucent form shimmering with fear. What do you mean, our weaknesses? They know which frequencies disrupt Zephyrian nervous systems. They know which chemicals are poisonous to Korthic biology. They know which energy patterns can shatter crystal core molecular structures. They are building specific weapons designed to kill each of us in the most effective way possible. The panic in the hall grew stronger. Species that had considered themselves invulnerable suddenly realized they were being studied, like laboratory animals. War Marshal Crexton of the Iron Brotherhood slammed his mechanical fist on his seat. Then we unite. Every species, every fleet, every weapon in the galaxy. We destroy them before they can destroy us. And go where? Asked Elder Nixara of the Ethereal Conclave, her ancient voice cutting through the noise. They have weapons platforms hidden around every major world. The moment we gather our fleets, they can destroy our home systems. She is right, confirmed Admiral Velthorn, who had been called to testify about his defeat. The once proud Zephyrian looked like he had aged decades in 2 months. My scouts have confirmed it. Every inhabited system has at least one human weapon satellite in its outer regions. They are small, nearly invisible, but each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. The hall erupted in frightened voices as representatives demanded to know how their own worlds had been compromised without their knowledge. How did they deploy so many weapons so quickly? Shouted Councillor Bexmar of the Trade Federation. They did not deploy them, Admiral Velthorn replied grimly. They were already there. Hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as debris, built into existing space structures. The humans have been preparing for this war for longer than we realized. Ambassador Kethver activated another display, showing intercepted human communications from before the first battle. Our analysis suggests they began preparing the moment they detected our scout ships 3 months ago. While we debated and planned, they were working. Every day, every hour, building weapons and hiding them throughout the galaxy. But how? Princess Yathara asked. They had no faster-than-light travel. How could they reach so many systems so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Vashtar of the Korthic Syndicate, his face bearing new scars from his encounter with human weapons, stepped forward. They did not need faster-than-light travel, he said, his voice hollow. They used ours. The hall fell silent. Every trade ship, every diplomatic vessel, every cargo hauler that visited their system in the past 50 years carried hidden human devices. Tiny machines, smaller than dust particles, programmed to spread throughout the galaxy and build weapons platforms using local materials. Dr. Zeftah's brain segments flashed with understanding, nanoscale von Neumann machines. Self-replicating. Constructors. They have been seeding the galaxy with microscopic factories for decades, but that level of technology... Senator Vexilon began. They did not have it 50 years ago, Kethver interrupted, but they learned it from us. Every contact, every trade exchange, every diplomatic mission taught them something new. We gave them the tools to destroy us. The horrible truth settled over the assembly like a blanket of ice. The galaxy's own interconnectedness had been turned into a weapon against them. There is more, Admiral Velthorn continued, his voice barely above a whisper. We have detected human infiltration teams on 17 different worlds, not invasion forces. Small groups, sometimes just 1 or 2 individuals. They are not conquering planets. They are studying them. Studying them for what? Demanded War Marshal Crexton. We do not know. But every world they visit suffers catastrophic accidents within days. Industrial explosions that should be impossible. Natural disasters that occur with suspicious timing. Computer viruses that spread through quantum networks that should be isolated. The representatives looked at each other with growing horror. Several species had reported strange accidents and failures in recent weeks, but they had not connected them to human activity. They are not fighting a war, Elder Nixara said, her form flickering with ancient wisdom and terrible understanding. They are conducting an extermination campaign. They are preparing to eliminate every species that might ever threaten them. Princess. Yathara's crystalline structure began to resonate with panic frequencies. Can we negotiate? Surely they must want something besides our destruction. Ambassador Kethfer activated the final display, showing the most recent human transmission. That had been broadcast to every government in the galaxy. This message was sent 2 days ago, he said. It was addressed to all of us. The hologram showed a human female, middle-aged with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore simple clothing and spoke in a calm, measured voice that was somehow more terrifying than any battle cry. To the governments of the galaxy, the human said, we know you are planning to unite against us. We know you see us as a threat that must be eliminated. You are correct. The hall was so quiet that the sound of breathing could be heard across the vast space. We did not start this war, the human continued. We offered no threat to anyone until you came to our world with weapons and demands. But you taught us something important. You taught us that the galaxy is full of predators who see weakness as an invitation to attack. She paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes that had seen too much death. So we have decided to remove that temptation. We will make it impossible for anyone to see us as weak ever again. We will become the thing that all other things fear. We will become the apex predator of the galaxy. The image changed to show human construction projects throughout space. Massive structures that defied physics, weapons that bent reality itself, ships that moved through dimensions that should not exist. We are building a new kind of civilization, the human's voice continued. One that does not depend on the tolerance of others for its survival. We have taken your technologies and made them better. We have studied your weaknesses and created weapons specifically designed to exploit them. We have prepared for every possible attack you might launch. The display showed star maps with human positions marked in red. They were everywhere, hidden, in plain sight throughout the galaxy. But we are not unreasonable, the human said, her voice taking on a tone of mock kindness. We offer you the same choice you offered us. Surrender unconditionally and accept our rule, or resist and face the consequences. The transmission ended with coordinates for every major government seat and military headquarters in the galaxy. You have one standard galactic day to decide, were the final words. The silence that followed lasted for long minutes. Finally, War Marshal Crexton spoke. How many ships do we have if we combine all our fleets? Approximately 50,000 vessels, replied Fleet Commander Tashva. And how many weapons platforms do they have hidden throughout the galaxy? Admiral Velthorn checked his intelligence reports. Our best estimates suggest over 2 million, each one capable of destroying multiple ships. The math was simple and terrifying. Even if every species in the galaxy. 5 years had passed since the Korthik sun exploded. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different now. Half the seats sat empty, their former occupants extinct or scattered to the far edges of the galaxy. The remaining representatives spoke in whispers, afraid that speaking too loudly might draw unwanted attention. Ambassador Kethfer stood at his usual position at the center podium, but he looked much older now. His blue-green skin had faded to a pale gray, and the worry marks that had once appeared only when he was afraid now covered his entire body permanently. Around him, the few remaining species that still dared to meet waited in nervous silence. The council will come to order, announced the speaker, though his voice carried none of its former authority. The massive brain creature that had once commanded thousands of civilizations now presided over fewer than 200 surviving worlds. We are here to discuss the terms of the final treaty, Kethfer began, his voice barely above a whisper. The humans have agreed to meet with us one last time. A shiver ran through the assembled beings. Over the past 5 years, humanity had systematically demonstrated their power across the galaxy. Stars had been extinguished. Worlds had been moved to different orbits. Entire civilizations had simply vanished overnight, leaving behind empty planets and the message, they chose poorly. Carved into their moons, the great doors of the chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Through them walked a single human figure. She was the same woman who had delivered humanity's ultimatum 5 years ago, but she looked unchanged by time. Her gray hair was still neatly arranged, her simple clothes still clean and pressed, her tired eyes still holding depths of knowledge that no alien could fathom. Behind her walked no guards, no advisors, no displays of military power. She came alone, as if the entire galaxy posed no more threat to her than a gentle breeze. "Honorable beings," she said, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber without any amplification. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun, speaking for the human race. You asked for this meeting. I am here to listen." The silence stretched on for long minutes. No one wanted to be the first to speak to the being who had orchestrated the destruction of half the galaxy. Finally, Princess Ithara of the Crystal Courts found her voice. Her crystalline form was cracked and dim, her people reduced from billions to mere thousands. "Admiral Chun," she began, her voice shaking like wind chimes in a storm. We wish to discuss terms for coexistence. Surely there must be some way for our species to share the galaxy in peace." Admiral Chun looked at her with something that might have been sympathy. "Princess, your people attacked our mining ships 6 months ago. You said they were trespassing in Crystal Court space." "They were. The asteroid belt around Rigel 7 has been our territory 3,000 years. Was," Admiral Chun corrected gently. "It was your territory. We needed those materials for our construction projects. Your people chose to fight rather than negotiate." "Princess." Ithara's form flickered with memory of that terrible day. The Crystal Court fleet had encountered a single human mining operation and demanded they leave immediately. When the humans refused, the Crystal Court ships opened fire. The human miners had not even tried to fight back. They had simply activated a device that turned the entire asteroid belt into a weapon. Every piece of rock became a guided missile. Every grain of dust became a cutting tool. In less than an hour, the Crystal Court fleet was debris, and their homeworld was under bombardment from the very asteroids they had claimed to own. "We did not know," the princess whispered. "We did not understand what you had become. That is the problem," Admiral Chun replied. "None of you understood. You still thought we were the same primitive species that Admiral Velthorn first encountered. You did not realize that every day since that first battle, we have been growing stronger." She gestured, and holographic displays filled the air around her. They showed the current state of human civilization, and it was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. Human cities now existed in the hearts of stars, drawing power directly from nuclear fusion. Human ships moved through dimensions that folded space like paper. Human factories converted entire planets into raw materials for projects that spanned multiple star systems. "We are no longer the species you first tried to conquer," Admiral Chun continued. "We have evolved. We have become something new, something that the galaxy has never seen before." War Marshal Crexton of the Iron Brotherhood, one of the few military leaders still alive, leaned forward in his mechanical chair. Half his body had been replaced with cybernetics after his encounter with human forces. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice distorted by artificial vocal cords. "Why keep us alive at all? You could destroy every remaining world with the press of a button." Admiral Chun's expression softened slightly, "Because despite what you may think, we are not monsters. We did not want this war. We did not want to become the thing that children have nightmares about. But you forced our hand." She activated another display, showing the original human colonies that had existed before first contact. "We were explorers once, scientists, artists, philosophers. We spent our time building beautiful things and trying to understand the universe around us. We thought that when we finally met other intelligent species, we would learn from each other and grow together." The display changed, showing the destruction of those same colonies during the various wars. "Instead, you taught us that the universe is full of predators. You taught us that kindness is seen as weakness. You taught us that the only way to survive is to become more dangerous than anything that might hunt us." Elder Nixara of the Ethereal Conclave, her ancient form barely visible, even to those who could see into other dimensions, spoke with a voice like dying wind. "And now you are the apex predator," she said. "The thing that all other things fear?" "Yes," Admiral Chun agreed. "We did not choose this role, but we will fulfill it completely. The galaxy is now under human protection. Not your protection. Our protection from you." The implications of her words settled over the remaining representatives like a heavy blanket. "You mean we are prisoners?" Senator Vexilon said, his voice hollow. "You are children," Admiral Chun corrected. "Dangerous children who cannot be trusted with weapons or the ability to travel freely. So we will make those decisions for you now." She activated a final display showing the new order that humanity had imposed on the galaxy. Every remaining species will be relocated to designated safe zones. You will be provided with everything you need to survive and even to prosper, but you will not be allowed to develop weapons or space travel beyond your assigned systems. "And if we refuse?" War Marshal Crexton asked. Admiral Chun looked at him with the same expression a parent might give a child asking why they could not play with fire. "Marshal, your people tried to refuse. Do you remember what happened?" The War Marshal's mechanical parts whirred as he shuddered. The Iron Brotherhood had attempted a last stand on their fortress world, believing their cybernetic enhancements made them immune to human weapons. They discovered that humans had developed viruses that could rewrite artificial intelligence, turning their own technology against them. "The choice is simple," Admiral Chun continued. "Accept our protection and live in peace within the boundaries we set for you, or continue to resist and face the consequences. We will not make this offer again." Ambassador Kethver stepped forward, his aged form trembling with the weight of his people's survival. "On behalf of all remaining civilizations," he said, his voice barely audible, "we accept your terms." Admiral Chun nodded. "Wise choice, Ambassador. You were the only one who tried to warn them, after all. Your people will be given one of the better safe zones." She began to turn away, then paused. "There is one more thing you should understand," she said, looking back at the assembled representatives. "This is not temporary. This is not a punishment that will end after a few generations. This is permanent. Humanity will never again trust another species with the power to threaten us." "But surely in time," Princess Yathara began. "In time, nothing," Admiral Chun interrupted, her voice taking on a harder edge. "We have seen what happens when we show weakness. We have learned what you do to those you think are inferior. We will not make that mistake again." She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. "Your children will grow up in the worlds we assign to you. Their children will do the same. For as long as humanity exists, the galaxy will remain under our control. This is the price of the war you forced upon us." As she reached the great doors, Admiral Chun turned back one final time. "You wanted to know what humans become when we are pushed too far," she said. "Now you know. We become the thing that ensures we are never pushed again." The doors closed behind her with a sound like the closing of a tomb. In the silence that followed, Ambassador Kethver looked around at the few dozen representatives who remained from what had once been a galaxy-spanning civilization. "The warnings were true," he whispered to himself. "All of them. We should have listened." Elder Nixara's flickering form began to fade as she prepared to return to her people with the news of their surrender. "The humans were right about one thing," she said, her voice barely a whisper in the wind. "They did not choose to become monsters, but they